If you've been drawing for a while now, do you ever get frustrated because you feel like your drawings just keep looking the same, that they're not improving? There is a very simple answer to this. So simple, in fact, I fear that when I say it, you'll click off, but persevere for a few minutes because I want to bring out two key things from this broad, simple point, which for some people at least may totally unplug the blockage to their drawing improvement. But the fundamental reason why we don't improve in our drawing is because nothing changes. Now, that's pretty obvious, isn't it? Because if we want our drawings to improve, what we're saying is we don't want them to keep looking the way they look. We want them to look different in some way, even if we can't pinpoint what that in some way is. And we often watch videos hoping to pick up tips or ideas, techniques that might introduce change in some way to our drawing. But I want to suggest that for certain types of people, the sorts of change we're talking about is not as easy to bring about as for others. I want to look at two main areas of, if you like, personality. But to lay the groundwork for that, there's a very important understanding, I think, to make sure we have, which is when we start to draw, even if we all start with no prior drawing experience at all, we don't actually start in the same place. And I'm not talking about more superficial reasons, such as we're different ages, but more the sort of life experience that we have at the point when we start to draw. Because our different life experiences will have equipped us in different ways regarding the sorts of things that we use when we learn to draw to different degrees. So for instance, I may have had a job where I needed to observe some things very carefully, maybe even critically. And so I've learned observation skills that someone else hasn't had to learn in the same way. Well, that will probably help me when I draw. I may have been doing things where hand-eye coordination was very important. So that's going to help me when I draw. I may have done things for a job, say, or at school, I may have been taught to analyze problems and find solutions very effectively. Well, that's going to be helpful in learning any skill, including drawing. I may have been more exposed to seeing drawings that other people have done, which has given me a certain understanding, certain inspiration, certain ideas of possibilities. And I may have far more of that than someone else who just wants to draw but almost has never seen anything that anyone else has drawn. Perhaps school experiences with drawing for different reasons in different classes have equipped one person more for drawing more seriously than others. Perhaps we simply have more confidence when we try new things. Perhaps we've been praised in the past by parents or family or friends or teachers, and that's given us an idea that I can do things. Or perhaps it's worked against us and we're more hesitant to try new things because we've failed a few times, and that's made us now more cautious. So two people who sit down, even at the same age, to learn to draw with exactly the same zero drawing experience don't actually start at the same place. Our starting place has complex origins. And as I said before, most of us hope to improve in our drawing, but we need to understand that improvement equals change. And some people find change more difficult than others, find change to embrace and to live with and to work with easier than others. So I want to talk about two types of others. And if you're one of these types, as I was, it can really make improving our drawing difficult. So the first reason, nothing to do with the actual drawing, but it comes from their overly cautious nature, their overly cautious way of thinking, of approaching the world, of choosing what to do. Because remember, improvement comes from change, and change can be something that overly cautious people find hard to embrace, even when it makes sense rationally. How would I know if I'm overly cautious? Well, there's probably a deep fear of making mistakes. Perhaps thinking that mistakes will reflect badly on me. May also make me afraid of letting people see my work, see my drawings, because somehow it becomes an extension of me, at least in my mind. I may have perfectionistic tendencies, which sadly doesn't mean that I make my drawings perfect. It means I'm afraid for them not to be perfect. But improvement is change, and change is always risk. Therefore, change often takes courage to embrace the risk. Can you see the tension between what I'm doing now and improving if my personality is in this direction? I find it hard to do the very thing, try new things, that I need to do if I'm going to improve. There's a part of me that says, well, I'm already doing my best. And so perhaps I knuckle down and I try harder, doing what I'm doing more intensely. But merely repeating the same thing with more effort does not actually change what I'm going to produce. Being timid for any reason is not going to help my drawing improvement, because it will stop me from doing the one thing I need to do, which is to try things differently, to experiment. But there's another type of personality which is also going to make it harder for me if I have this to improve in my drawings, and that's the overconfident personality. By overconfident, I mean confidence to a greater degree than a neutral bystander would say we have reason to hold. Because I'm going to be feeling that I've already done it. I'm going to be feeling that I already know what I need to know. I'm going to be feeling that this is okay. And so I'm going to keep repeating the same thing over and over again, because I'm not going to really feel in who I am the need to change anything. Even if in a big picture sense, I would like my drawings to improve, when I'm actually drawing, I'm going to feel that, well, I fundamentally know what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And I've already made the best choices because I've made them. So it's actually going to be hard, therefore, to change the things I need to change that will combine to start changing the overall appearance of my drawings in a good way. And if I'm thinking in this way, and when I started my drawing, I had a lot of things that lined up well in my past non-drawing life experience that actually, if you like, gave me a head start in my drawing, that may compound my confidence, that may make my overconfidence more over. It might have led me to think that I started with a lot of natural talent and therefore it will just come easily to me. But however strongly we start from the totality of our past life experience, when we start to draw, we all need to improve from that starting point. And improvement comes from change, and change comes from risk. So you can see how these two totally different mindset personality types both impact, both really hold back our ability to improve our drawing. The fear of the risk of trying new things for the insecure person, or the perfectionistic person thinking that it may not work, or the overconfident person at any given point confident that really what I'm doing is probably better anyway, never actually taking the opportunities to try new things. Both will continue to do what they've always done, and therefore will continue to produce drawings that look the same as their drawings have always looked. I often scroll through Instagram accounts and look at drawings, and you can scroll back years and years in some cases, and I'm always interested to see just how often the drawings really haven't changed in that time. Even when there is some, to my mind, very clear areas where development could have been helpful, could have been productive, we can do the same thing for years and years and years and not improve. Practicing the same way, drawing the same way, over and over again, trying harder, even with more time and effort, will in all likelihood simply produce more of the same. For our drawings to change, improve, our mindsets have to change. The way we think has to change, because everything we do ends up flowing in some way from how we are thinking. The assumptions we have and the choices we are deciding to try and at least make in our minds. Either thinking that it's worthwhile, that we need to change this or that or try this, or overcoming the fear when it actually comes to the point of doing something different, that this is an okay thing to do. That there really isn't the risk that we're feeling so intensely. That we can remind ourselves, it's just drawing, it's just ink on paper. No one's life, mine or anyone else's, depends on it. and I need to try new things if I want to change what I'm currently doing looks like. And of course, with perhaps these two extremes, there are people who, when they start to learn to draw, find themselves most fortunately in the right place. A personality that's not overly confident, but not fearful of change and fearful of mistakes and fearful of risks. A personality that's able to enjoy the process because who they are doesn't connect with what they produce, able to work hard, able to knuckle down and analyze and thoughtfully apply what they've learned, but also prepared to continually grow by adding new thoughts, new ideas to at least experiment with in their drawing. And hopefully, at least at some of these points, lead their drawing on to improvement. And of course, there's no judgment here. We are who we are. We start where we start. That's just how it is. But in my own experience, as someone who started on the overly cautious, afraid of making mistakes, tending towards perfectionism side of the fence, I personally found that understanding what was happening, while it didn't make it easy to change, gave me the framework I needed to make change easier than it would have been without understanding what I was up against. So if either of these mindsets are causing a blockage in my progression, in my drawing, my changing things, my trying new things, my taking risks, then working at changing the unhelpful mindset is going to be key to opening a floodgate of experimentation and learning and having fun and improvement. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Look, perhaps that doesn't really apply to you, or just in a small amount. There are lots of things we can work at to improve our drawing, but it is worth considering whether some aspect of our fundamental personality or ways of thinking we've fallen into our lives before we've started to draw are actually being the biggest blockage to our being able to change things up as we learn to draw and therefore to improve. But look, in the end, wherever we start, wherever we're at, wherever we're trying to get to in our drawing, we should make sure we're having fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.